Hi, I'm Susan Drumm, and welcome to the Enlightened Executive, where your personal evolution sparks your leadership evolution. Each episode, we feature groundbreaking techniques and strategies to help you get the edge in personal and leadership effectiveness, and a different dream office backdrop. So this is a really important episode because we all go through different life-changing experiences and milestones, from graduation to death of a loved one and so many more. And the one constant, says my guest today, is our need and ability to adapt to change. So I'm excited to introduce Erin Snyder, a seminar leader for Landmark. Landmark is a personal and professional growth training and development company that's had more than 2.4 million people use its programs, including the Landmark Forum, to create breakthroughs in their lives around performance, communication, relationships, their communities, and overall satisfaction in life. And I'm very excited to have Erin because I have also graduated from the Landmark Forum. So welcome to the program, Erin.
Thank you, Susan. It's just great to be here.
It was my experience with Landmark that created the start of my leadership development career 18 years ago.
Wow.
And so I'm excited to have you here to talk about how can this, as we look at Landmark Forum and the programs that you offer, what does that do for people? What is it, first of all? What is it? How does it help people? But really specifically is what we focus on here is how does it help you develop your leadership capabilities?
Yeah, I think it's really perfect to be talking about this, especially given the situation in the world right now. The world needs more leadership.
Yes.
And we could definitely talk about the nature of our company and what we offer and, ontology distinct from epistemology and the whole world of that, which we might get into later.
Yes.
But I'll start with what you first asked about, who are we?
Yeah.
A good place to start. So it's these interactive 3-day sessions, and each forum takes place over 3 days and an evening. And in these interactive 3-day sessions, it's the participants, usually around 150, although sometimes you go to India and there's 400 or 500, right? And then a coach, an expert, Landmark Forum leader, who leads an interactive dialogue. And what's really cool about the interactive sessions that people engage in, this isn't like you're, let's go sit in a lecture hall. No, in these interactions and in these interactive sessions, you really start to discover why you are the way you are.
Mm-hmm.
We've all had that, gosh, why do I do things that way? Or, why do I sometimes get in my own way? And
why do I get triggered by whenever I see this behavior? It just gets under my skin. I can't control.
That's right. This particular employee or my ex or my wife, why does it go that way? And that is really powerful for people because in the forum, they start to discover the nature and the source of that. Why am I the way I am? And they discover in that 3 days, they have the power to really choose new ways that are exciting ways of engaging with their life, with their world, rather than being kind of stuck to the way it's always been. We have these trends in life.
Yes.
Where it doesn't matter what we've thrown at it, we still end up doing things the same way we've always done them. That's why New Year's resolutions are hardly ever effective with people, because we have these great plans for how to be more effective in life. We're really going to stick to it. But then we're creatures of habit. We end up going back to the way it always is. So Landmark really, inside of that 3-day inquiry with people, in the kind of, I'm going to say it this way, it's like the dialogue that happens, the forum leaders, we could call them, the experts that lead these conversations, really do create an unforgettable experience for people. Who we are, just simply said, is an international company. We've got 47 offices around the world. We offer more than 50 programs in 20 different countries. I think we're now over 12 different languages.
Oh my, yeah.
Yep. And probably at the time you got the the info, we're at 2.4 million people. We're actually up past 3 million now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In our programs. Yeah. Just last year, 190,000. One of the things that is important to note about that, I mean, obviously during this pandemic, we typically have been leading programs in person.
Right.
But you can imagine with everything with the pandemic, we've now moved everything online. So we're leading less programs in person, although some locations we're able to, Australia, New Zealand, et cetera.
Right. Yeah.
The majority now, everything's moving to an online venue. And, we're right in the middle of that. And, we're about to be rolling out the forum online, which is really exciting.
So what makes Landmark unique in terms of the program or ideas or how you deliver?
Well, it's our methodology. Typically, if you go to a leadership development class or you read a book, you're getting tips, tricks, strategies epistemologically. That's what they call it in academia, but basically said you're getting more information to learn to apply to whatever your current set of circumstances is. So my whole pursuit in developing my leadership for most leaders is, okay, I'm going to get more tips on how to speak more effectively. Okay, I'm going to get more strategies for how I interact with employees in a way that has them be more confident. Or, X, Y, and Z, fill it in, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at, I'm going to say it kind of bluntly, right? If you look at just what happened in North America last week, and, forget about that. It's not political. It's about the being of human beings. You look at our society, at our culture, and, pandemic notwithstanding, overall, people's lives are better. People are producing better results. They're making more money. There's less hunger in the world. Generally, things in our circumstances of life have actually really gone up. But if you look at people's quality of life, where's that gone?
Right.
People are so used to now. If you just think of hamster wheel, you think of the midlife crises that go on. People are so used by needing to do more, learn more so they can get more ahead that they miss what's actually in the background that's giving all of that.
Right. And that feeling of overwhelmed. Okay. So, how many books have you read? Have you really implemented anything? How many speeches have you seen? Have you really, it feels good in the moment. You might laugh. It was entertaining. Did you actually do anything differently? Right. And I think that's really what you're getting to. How could this help in leadership? So obviously hugely beneficial from a personal standpoint, but as we're trying to continue to make that link between your personal effectiveness and how it impacts your leadership effectiveness, how does Landmark impact that?
Well, our programs aren't based in informative learning. And, if you've done everything you can do in an area, say in your business, and you've tried to grow that business and you've done everything you need to do, you've applied things that you learned and you've, even been effective at some level in expanding your business, but it's still not where you want it. Something else has got to be there that's not what you've already learned. Because geez, if you look at people, it's not like people are lazy sitting at home on their couch, just hoping that their business doesn't expand. They're doing everything they know to do. Well, that's where we come in. We don't deal with more tips, strategies, techniques for how to get further in your business or expanding it. It's not informative that way. Our programs are based completely in personal discovery. So people are able to actually distinguish what's been in the background, unseen by them, that when they're able to see it, all of a sudden they have quantum leaps in effectiveness and performance because they're no longer constrained by the blind spots that have been back there that they haven't seen are in the way of their effectiveness, that are in the way of their leadership, that are in the way of them being effective with people. So that's where our programs really do cause a permanent shift for people because they're not based in more information, more studying, more learning, applying. No, we want to get what has you not be effective in applying the knowledge you already have. Mm-hmm. What's in the background of human beings? Mm-hmm. You're not a lamppost. You're not a dog. You're a human being.
Yeah.
In the background that's giving you the actions you're taking. Because when that becomes clear for people in that 3 days of the forum, they walk out of there crystal clear. Anything they want to accomplish is accomplishable. Anything they want to create for their future is no longer limited by all that stuff that's been unseen by them. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I felt like it was a radical shift in perspective. Yeah. That ability, like you said, to see what's going on, see what's driving you, and see how your perspective may be colored. And so when you lift off, imagine it's sort of different pairs of glasses with different, frames with a shield on it. When you take it off, you see now all the full colors versus sort of the muted version that you only saw possibility in a small amount of areas. And now it blows it wide open. So it's really engaging and energizing.
It's actually great the way that you said it so simply. It really does give people a new perspective on life. But more importantly, I would say it this way, like you said, it takes out of the way the barriers to people being able to see and deal with life as it actually is. We all live in interpretations about life that unless those are distinguished as interpretations, we're stuck in that interpretation. How many times have you been trying to be effective with your weight or with your communication with your significant other, and you're just stuck in some habitual way of being in that particular instance, and to not have that in the way anymore for people is liberating. I mean, it's literally, they walk out of there just like, oh my gosh, I'm no longer burdened by all the obligation and all the expectation and all the weight that's been on my shoulders given by my old perspective on life. Yeah. And it's very powerful for people.
And now you've talked a bit about how it changes your listening and the importance of that for a leader. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So there's something about, especially given your podcast, right, is really geared towards people who are CEOs, entrepreneurs, people who, these are people that are highly effective, accomplished, driven human beings that really are out to, I don't know how to say it other than, put a stake in the ground, creating in the world a new kind of vision, right? And most people, one of the fallacies that's there in the culture of our society is kind of the myth of where leadership comes from. People really do think being a good leader is how you speak. They think if I'm going to be a better leader, I got to speak better. Well, what you and I were talking about briefly earlier that you just brought back was maybe that's a myth. Maybe the real power in leadership is in the way people listen. And if you really do look, people don't listen.
Yes.
People comment, there's a distinction. So our methodology, which, having participated in it, is full of distinctions. And distinctions bring language to something that before then may have been you might have been aware of it, but you didn't have language for it. So it couldn't exist as what it was. And it brings clarity for people. And one of the distinctions that is powerfully created out of the forum, which is our flagship course, is the already always listening. And in that discovery of the way human beings listen, people are able to discover for themselves there's way more talking in their listening than there is any listening. Yeah. You and I are constantly judging and evaluating, coming up with analyzing what we're hearing is like what we already know, coming up with our opinions about it. And we're constantly listening through the filter of all of that noise when we're talking to ourselves about what's being said, that we're literally not even present to what someone is actually saying.
Right. And we might not be saying anything, but we're not even present with what's going on because we're already formulating what the next thing is we're going to say.
That's right.
I see this often when I look at I'll observe maybe CEOs in their team meetings.
Yeah.
And I ask them to start to monitor, or I'll monitor, how much are they speaking? How much are they asking questions? And how much are they letting their team speak? And it's interesting, the mindset shift where, let's say, newer CEOs think they need to lead the whole meeting. Okay, I got to do this, I gotta do this. And it's not till you do that for a while and you see you're not actually engaging your team.
Right.
You should be learning, as you should come in with a mindset that you are learning more about what's going on with your organization. And you do that by asking questions. And you can't ask a good follow-up question unless you've really listened and heard what the answer to the first question was.
Yeah, very good. Because that's so well said, basically. And people can really hear that. Oh my God, I don't even listen to what they're actually in fact saying. I mean, people are so checked out. They're going down the interstate. They miss their exit. 3 minutes later, they're like, where the heck was I? Yeah, you were talking to yourself the entire time. Yeah. So people really do think leaders are born. They're born. People are born with those kind of qualities of leadership. But I want you to consider, and the listeners, you may already really get this, is people are not born leaders. Leadership's developed. And most people don't actually pay attention to what's important and powerful in leadership, which is how they listen. And, if you look at some of the people you most admire, you will mostly find with the leaders that we look at in the world, the Martin Luther Kings, the different people of the world, it wasn't in what they said, it was how they elicited leadership from others, how they elicited the bigness in others. You have somebody stand up at a boardroom meeting, and most of the people are just there trying to, judge, assess what they said and how find holes so they can sound better. But that leader in the room is actually listening to what's the commitment in the background of that person speaking, and they're able to elicit that person's bigness, that person's greatness, so that they're having leadership show up around them. Mm-hmm. That's the qualities of a leader. Mm-hmm. And, I was saying to you earlier, before we started this, that we have this really powerful inquiry in our leadership development courses, right? And one of them is the power of listening. And you and I can actually do that exercise. I think it might be really fun for your listeners.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this whole exercise is about actually being able to discover for yourself, because it's one thing, Susan, when people say to you, oh, you should listen more. Okay, but then people just get more driven to try to listen more, but they can't actually get through what's going on in their head. Yeah. So this exercise actually gives people an opportunity, and the viewers can actually practice this from the exercise that you and I do, which I think would be incredible for them. Okay, good. So this is an exercise called listening for the gold. So you and I are just human beings. We all have things we're passionate about. Yes.
Yes.
And what's one thing you're super passionate about?
Hiking here in Arizona.
Hiking. Okay. You live in Arizona. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So Susan, you're going to just speak to me. Okay. And you can't stop. This is the number one rule. Okay. You cannot stop. The one rule I have is I can't leave the video here. I have to stay in my seat. Okay. But the one rule you have is you cannot stop till I tell you you can stop. Okay.
In terms of talking about hiking?
Talking about hiking. And you really are genuinely passionate about it, aren't you?
Yes. I mean,
like an hour about it
here. It's one of the reasons why I live here. Yeah.
Good. So you're going to speak to me about your passion about hiking. And then my job is to actively not listen to you. And you want to see what you experience when I'm not listening, and what your experience is of what you're passionate about. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to practice not listening, and then you're going to practice sharing into someone's no listening. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Ready? And you can't stop, remember. Okay.
How long?
Right. As long as I tell you.
Okay.
Okay. Ready? And go.
So I love hiking here in Arizona because 10 minutes outside my door, I can do an hour and a half hike, get my exercise, and be in nature. And that's what it really is for me. It's about being in nature. That ability to look at cactus
Yes, just so they
and
want to talk. I'm in an
you
interview right
even
now.
see animals here in
Not
the
really that
desert.
important.
And some people think the
I
desert isn't beautiful, but man, you
Yeah.
should be here in March and April. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
totally. I can give you a call back and
It's
a little
amazing.
bit after. Okay. All
So,
right. Bye.
it's really hard to do this. Okay, so I have to keep talking. What else? Here's one of the things I mostly see. We've got a lot of loose rock and shale, and I see a lot of tourists come in and they're wearing these very flat shoes,
on my calendar.
and they can't get a grip, and they slip and fall.
Okay, good. Now, how is that for you?
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
The experience of it. And did your enthusiasm and passion get bigger or smaller?
Smaller for sure. I'm like, okay, well, why should I talk anymore about this? Like, you're not listening to me.
Yeah. And most people go through life thinking, oh, well, then they get more driven to be more over the top, or they just throw their hands up, like, screw it. Like you said, do I have to keep talking about that? Like, it's just deflating. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And that's mostly some people do this exercise. And then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, well, that's kind of normal. My spouse never listens to me. Yeah. They're always doing their, calendaring or their to-do list or watching TV while I'm talking to them. Totally on their phone. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So now we're going to redo this and we're going to actually do it the other way. So I am going to be listening for the goal with you. And I'm going to listen for what you're sharing is like, oh my gosh, the best thing I've ever heard. And authentically, like, getting interested in what you're sharing with me about why hiking is so fabulous. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to do this just for about 45 minutes. Okay. But I want you to see what you discover when you share and it's actually being listened to powerfully. Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. All right, go ahead.
So hiking for me is a form of meditation. And I often actually like to hike alone, but I'm also hiking with my puppy. She's now 9 months. And
what kind of puppy?
She is a toy Aussie.
Wow.
And so she's got beautiful blue eyes, and I call her tiny but mighty. And she has so much energy. She's super smart. And she just goes over these boulders like a tank truck. She's, as we're hiking, she's motoring. And it's so cute. And it's a way that she and I kind of bond together as we experience nature. And so it's meditative for me in the sense that it's my quiet time. It's my chance for reflection, but also paying attention to the beauty. And the desert has incredible beauty if you look for it. So that allows me to be grateful. I really experience gratitude as I'm hiking for the land we live in.
Okay, good. So now, you could have just kept going for like an hour, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yes. And what was different in your experience?
I just felt seen. Is the only way I put it, but I also felt like we were connecting. Yes. And ultimately, why are we talking? So that we build a connection.
That's right.
And so when I'm talking and I feel you listening, I feel that connection, and energetically, it's incredibly powerful.
You're very good. And it's amazing for the listener. I mean, before this, I never would have even thought about hiking in Arizona. Like, why would you even do that? Go hike in a mountain. Right. But I really got enrolled in, oh my gosh, I just got a new puppy myself. Hiking in Arizona would just be amazing. So the listener really gets into it, and you get more enlivened by the end of it. If you notice, you weren't drained, deflated, you were like up. I mean, it was like just enlivening for you. So and for me, a whole different connection, like you said.
Yes. Now, what would you say? There's something about that. So I've had some leaders say to me, yeah, when I have my one-on-ones with my team and they come in and they're complaining about X, Y, and Z, it's really hard for me not to tune out. What would you say to those types of leaders about listening?
There are a couple things, really a couple things. It's so good because whether it's in your office with your employees or whether it's with your spouse, it's all the same, People complain a lot. And it's because they never actually get listened to. So people will have the same complaints over and over and over and over again. because what they're saying is never actually gotten by someone else. Mm-hmm. So one of the powerful things that we really do, people get left with out of the forum, is they're able to be available for listening in a way where people get gotten authentically. Mm-hmm. Because when people do get heard authentically, like they get, not just you're in their shoes, but they actually get that you're experiencing life through their eyes. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is that they've been complaining about, amazing, it just disappears. Mm-hmm. It disappears. Mm-hmm. And think about those times in your life where you talk to a best friend and they just really got you. Like they just got what you're dealing with, what you're going through. You got off that call or out of that conversation. You were just left more at home with yourself, more at home with life. But because people never really get gotten, they say the same things over and over and over again. And then we make them wrong for it. Mm-hmm. God, they're such complainers. Well, maybe it's because we're not actually listening for what's giving that complaint. And what's always giving the complaint, by the way, is they've got a commitment in the background that's getting thwarted. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, if they didn't, they wouldn't just be complaining. Nobody wants to spend their life complaining, being miserable. Right. It's because something's in the background that's a commitment that they're not fulfilling on. So all they're left with is to complain about it because they don't know how else to deal with it. So true leadership is the people that can actually get that, and they can actually listen and get the communication in the background of the commitment that's there. And then actually be able to, from that person's view, actually be able to have that person get that you're a partner and then fulfilling on the commitment that got thwarted. Whole different way of approaching leadership.
Whole different way. And so this is what I want to really kind of leave listeners with, is this ability to shift your listening, the ability to shift how people feel heard will save you time.
Yes.
Versus think it's going to take too long to listen to it. Because if you can have that person feel heard, then like you said, they get off it and you won't hear that again and again. So if you've heard it, if you keep hearing it, there's something that they don't feel heard on. How can you make that person really feel heard? Doesn't mean you need to agree with it.
That's
How
right.
can you at least have
very
them
important
feel heard?
Yes. And most people think they do, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. Most people do think, oh, everything someone says, I've got to address that. I got to, no. Sometimes it's better to just let it fly by. And then get back to their commitment, because whatever you focus your attention on is what's going to drive. Yeah. So if you focus on that they're a complainer, all you're going to get is more complaining. If you focus on what's the commitment in the background, that's what's going to start to be elicited. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, how can people learn more that are interested in changing the way they listen and saving time?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, whether it's our programs for, people producing breakthrough results in their lives and their businesses, et cetera, entrepreneurs, everybody, our website, landmarkworldwide.com, for sure is the place to go to find out about our programs. And then you'll even find out about our consulting arm, which is wholly owned by us, which is Vanto Group. And Vanto Group, we've worked with Fortune 100 companies around the world, Lululemon, Apple, Panda Express. Mm-hmm. We've done our programs with NASA. We offer executive coaching, all kinds of things through our Vanto Group. So that'll also be there available on that website, landmarkworldwide.com.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and for listening to my passion about hiking.
Oh, so good. Thank you for having me. This was awesome to be with you.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Till next time.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'd like to point you to the next important step. Hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when we release new content. I'll see you on the next episode of The Enlightened Executive.